Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the Balance and Thrive podcast. Today we're going to be talking about red light therapy, where ancient wisdom meets modern biohacking. So just a little about me, for those of you who are new to the group, new to the sessions, and my name is Faria. I'm a holistic health coach, also certified in nutrition and wellness. I'm an insulin resistant educator, and I'm a big fan of helping Muslim women heal through rhythm, light, and nourishment. I've helped busy women in the past lose weight, gain energy, balance their hormones, and improve their nervous system through a no supplement or diet approach. And just a short disclaimer before we begin, the information provided to you today is for educational purposes only. It is not intended to diagnose or cure. If you have a serious medical concern, please do reach out to a qualified practitioner. And as you know, as I always say, ladies, for these sessions, we want it to be interactive, want you to be on point. If you are participating and not just listening, that's a different level of your senses being used. And so that way it will stay in your mind a lot more, inshallah. So share with me what questions you have, any clarifications you would like, any light bulb moments that have happened, what's new for you here. Share it in the chat box, inshallah. And for those of you who are new here, welcome. I always appreciate you being here live and, supporting these live sessions that we do have for the sisters. I appreciate that. And how we have these set up is that they are live once every 2 weeks. We go through a topic. Sometimes there's a poll in the group where you can choose the topic that you'd like. And we try to keep these sessions as compact and as short and sweet as possible, inshallah, just so that we don't overload you with yet more information, but give you things that you can learn about and also go away and implement in your life. That is the most important thing for me, to see the women that I interact with go away and start implementing and feeling that change in their health and in their lives. Okay, so today's session I've been really excited about because we're going to be deep diving into something that sounds and even looks like it belongs in something like a sci-fi film, but it's actually got ancient origins: red light therapy, or shortened as RLT. You might have seen recently on social media influencers sitting under these glowing red panels. You might have been seeing some celebrities wearing these red face masks. But the thing to understand about red light therapy is that it isn't just a beauty trend. It is actually a powerful healing modality, and it's backed by science. It's deeply aligned with our circadian biology and does have some ancestral practices in it too. So today, the kind of topics that we're going to be looking at, inshallah, is, where did red light therapy come from? Why does it work? What conditions it can actually support? How can you use it safely and effectively? And what the research actually says. Okay. So let's start with a little bit of context. The idea of light being therapeutic isn't new. Maybe it's just the first time a lot of you ladies are hearing this kind of concept. And I would be happy to hear if you say to me that you heard that from me. That would be excellent. But this isn't anything new. It dates back actually thousands of years. Ancient nations, they knew it was something powerful. And some of them would go to extremes. You may have heard of ancient peoples worshipping the sun, like some of the Egyptians, where they had an idol dedicated to it. Then we also had the early Ayurvedic and the Greek medicine systems. They recognized that sunlight had healing properties. They may not have had the scientific terms like photobiomodulation, which is the scientific term for red light therapy, but they knew instinctively that light heals. Now, if we come a little bit more forward, into around the late 1800s, and we look at the works of people like Florence Nightingale, which many of you may have heard of, she wasn't a red light therapist. However, she was a pioneer of using sunlight, cleanliness, and air for healing. She intuitively placed hospital beds by windows because she saw that her patients improved when they were exposed to sunlight. So this was circadian wisdom in action. And a lot of the hospitals back many years ago now had these areas, these wards where they had beds exposed to sunlight. So they have always known, it's always been known that sunlight heals. It's just something that we seem to have forgotten in the last 100, 200 years or so. Now, if you fast forward even to 1903, there is a Danish physician by the name of Niels Finsen, and he won the Nobel Prize for using light therapy to treat diseases like lupus vulgaris, which is a severe form of tuberculosis, right? A severe form of TB that affects the skin. And he was probably one of the first pioneers to start using concentrated red light. So red light was there saving lives like 120 years ago, right? So what's happened then to now? Why have things shifted? Why have we forgotten about this benefit? And why don't we use it? Now, lab mice, they found Andre Mester, he was a Hungarian scientist, and he actually discovered this by accident. He found that low-level red lasers, which is what LLT stands for, low-level laser therapy. What he found was that they had these mice that they were doing some kind of tests on, and they had shaved the fur off these mice. But these mice, when they were put under these lights, these low-level laser therapies, they noticed that their hair started to grow back faster. Now, these LLT were the scientific ancestors of today's red light panels. So they were noticing things, they were picking things up. Okay. And even NASA saw this, and this is the 1990s now, right? So yeah, they weren't really quick on it, but NASA did pick it up in the 1990s. And what they started to do was explore how red and near infrared light could support astronauts' wound healing and tissue repair in zero gravity. They found the results so impressive that red light was being trialed for everything from pain relief to tissue regeneration back on Earth. So while red light therapy as panels may look modern and may look techy, its roots are actually ancient. And it's just now that our modern understanding is actually catching up. So, how does shining this red light on your face actually do anything? Right? And it's a good question. How does it actually work? What the implications are actually at a cellular level. Okay. So your body contains thousands of tiny power points in every single cell called mitochondria. We've got the millions and billions of them in our systems. Now, their job is to produce ATP. Now, ATP is the energy currency of the body. Okay, now if you think of ATP as your body's bioelectric battery pack, okay? Now, when we are exposed to red and near infrared light, specifically wavelengths around 630 to 850 nanometers, that number is important. these penetrate deep into your skin and your tissues. The wavelengths are absorbed by an enzyme inside your mitochondria called cytochrome C oxidase. Now, what this light does is that it stimulates these enzymes to work better. So your mitochondria can then make more ATP. Okay, and ATP just stands for adenosine triphosphate. Now, if you are able to make more ATP, right, that means that you have faster healing. That means that you will have more energy, right? It will mean less inflammation. It will mean improved function overall. So if you think about it, every organ has hundreds and millions of these mitochondria, right? Now, if you are focusing on that organ to heal and that organ starts to create more ATP, that organ will get better, inshallah. That organ will start to thrive optimally, inshallah. Okay? It's like you're jump starting your cells with a natural battery charger. Don't need no chemicals, you don't need no pills. So this is the interaction that happens when your body is exposed to red and near infrared light. And what's incredible is that your skin and your tissues already expect this kind of light. It's like they almost want it and desire it because it's what's available in our environment anyway. Sun is the original red light therapy device. Every morning, every evening, you have access to it. When the sun is low on the horizon, right, it emits more red and near infrared light. It helps us to wake up, it helps us to regenerate, it resets our internal clocks. The other thing that red light also does is that it supports melatonin production, not just at night, but in the mitochondria during the day. And this is called pineal melatonin. And it plays a massive role in healing inflammation and oxidative stress because melatonin cools down the cells. Okay, it helps to cool it down. And that is a very important process that has to occur. If you think about an engine, like your car engine, right? If it doesn't have that cooling system in it, the car's going to overheat, right? It could catch fire. It basically is going to break down. And alhamdulillah, we naturally have that cooling system required and needed in ourselves too. And one of the ways that we can achieve that is through producing sufficient amounts of melatonin. Okay, and that helps. What that does is reduces oxidative stress, right? So it reduces the cell destroying itself, inshallah, basically. So red light therapy isn't about forcing the body to heal, right? It's about giving the body the exact signal it needs to do what it already knows how to do. This is the beauty and the benefit of it. So if we look at red light therapy a little bit more closely and try to understand what about the real life benefits, if any, what are they? So let's look at skin. One of the most well-known uses that red light helps with is things like fine lines and wrinkles, acne, rosacea, scarring, hyperpigmentation, and even wound healing. Like it's shown to speed and improve these conditions. How does it do that? Well, it does that by stimulating collagen production. It increases blood flow. It reduces inflammation in the dermal layer of your skin. There was a study in 2014, and what they found was that participants using red and near infrared light saw visible reductions in wrinkle depth and roughness and improved overall skin tone. That's why you're seeing such a huge surge right, amongst these influencers, and they're using those masks. And even some, clinics and salons, they're picking up on this now. But what you have to also realize is that the transformation isn't going to happen if it's a one-time thing, right? It's got to be consistent. That's the thing to bear in mind. The other area where they have seen visible results has been hair growth. So if you have been suffering with hair loss, either through PCOS or postpartum hair loss, then this is a game changer. Because what red light does is that it stimulates the hair follicles. It increases blood flow and increases cellular activity to the scalp, especially around the 650 nanometers. Some studies even show that red light therapy can rival popular pharmaceuticals for hair growth without the side effects. The other area where it's been notable has been things like pain, injury, and inflammation. It helps to reduce joint pain, joint stiffness, and inflammation, whether it's something from osteoarthritis, tendinitis, back pain, fibromyalgia, even post-exercise soreness. And what NASA found was that the red light reduced healing time, another positive, right, by 40%. So it's quite a significant number there. And it reduced pain scores by up to 50% in injured tissues. So it accelerates recovery, again, by improving blood flow and also supporting the lymphatic system. The other thing that they have noted with anyone using red light therapy is, and even researchers are looking into this a bit more, as to how photobiomodulation can be used transcranially, so basically on the brain itself, right? They use it on the skull, sorry, right, to improve the brain energy metabolism, right? So using it on the skull, using it close to it as possible, how is it impacting the brain? Early findings are showing some promising benefits, things like brain fog, things like fatigue, depression, and even cognitive function in older adults. And there are a number of practitioners who are using it in various ways, for children who have got things like speech delay, delays with like movement, and they are seeing positive results. So that's another thing to bear in mind. Now, there's two ways that you can actually use red light therapy. Okay, so there's the targeted way, which is local, things like your face, your knees, your scalp. They're so quite close and directly onto the area that is problematic. And then there's the other way that you can use it, which is called a systemic, a full body application of it. So these would be those big panels that you may have seen people hanging on the back of their doors or in their rooms, where you would stand in front of this panel with minimal clothing and expose your whole body, allowing mitochondrial support to really be boosted throughout your system. Here's what you need to know. You need to choose the right wavelength. Okay, so now if these numbers are confusing to you, some websites, what they have of really good, one of them is Red Light Rising, I recommend that one in my group. They give you like a questionnaire to ask you what exactly you're going to be using it for. And then they're able to direct you as to which of the devices would be the most suitable for that. Okay, so if you are using it for things that are local, then which is 630 to 660 nanometers is best for skin surface tissues, right? Just on the surface. Now, if you want to go a bit more deeper, then you want to get the 810 to 850 nanometers. So you need to make sure that your device has these abilities to do it, because some devices can have both in them already. Okay, and the one that is near infrared will be able to penetrate deeper That would be best for things like joints. It'd be good for things like muscles and even the brain. High quality devices, like the ones I've mentioned, the ones I've recommended in the past, as I said, will be able to combine both wavelengths in one panel. And that's ideal, right, for that full spectrum benefit. So the other thing that I'm asked often is, okay, how long do I need to be using it for? Well, the thing to understand with red light therapy is that more is not always better. Okay, and this is just like sunlight even, right? There is a sweet spot. Now, overdoing it can cause fatigue. It can cause mild overstimulation, okay? And studies have shown that benefits can be seen within just 15 minutes of use. That is sufficient. Like, you do not need to go beyond that. You do not need to be sitting in front of this red light panel for like an hour, right? And even with that 15 minutes, that isn't how you start, right? You would literally be starting at 1 to 2 minutes at a time, just to allow your body to get used to it. You know, that is what is recommended. And this could be done like 3 to 5 times a week. Again, start very slowly, and it doesn't need to be touching your skin directly for you to get the benefit. What about the timing? Well, some of companies out there will say you can use it morning and evening, right? Morning to mimic like the morning exposure, and then the evening to mimic the winding down exposure time, right? These are the two things. Now, personally, with my clients, I always recommend the mornings. And this would be for things like hormone support, better sleep, mood balance, okay? And from what I have seen and understood is that evening use can have some benefits, especially in terms of sleep. However, there is that issue that it does have the potential to overstimulate the body and then impact optimal sleep, right? And there's obviously things taken consideration as to like how much light is coming out of this, and you can measure that with, you know, the lux meter that I've mentioned before in the app. You know, that there are those kind of issues to bear in mind. So that's why I always, during the day is probably the best time to do it. And just also to put out there that these devices cannot replace or even replicate what you get from the sun. Okay, so don't think, okay, I'm just going to get one of these and I don't need to go outside anymore. That's absolutely not the case. So let's just look at some research that is actually out there, right, in regards to this. Because some people think there isn't a lot of science behind it, okay? And there are dozens to potentially hundreds of individual studies across various applications. I'm hearing that there are maybe like 10,000 studies plus done on this now, ranging from like, you know, people have looked at skin, they've looked at hair, they've looked at wound healing, they've looked at pain, sleep, cognition, muscle recovery, and they've all shown positive effects of red light therapy. You know, as we mentioned, the one about that was the study that was completed in 2014, where visible improvements were seen in skin texture and also the collagen density. And if anyone wants these exact references to go away and look at it, I'm more than happy to provide them, inshallah. They've also noticed study in 2009 in the Journal of Cosmetic Laser Therapy that red light reduces signs of aging and it improves the skin tone. As we said about NASA, you know, they've done a lot of research into it. The LLT and pain meta-analysis in 2015 found RLT to be very effective for osteoarthritis and chronic joint pain. A sleep study that was conducted in 2021, athletes who were exposed to red light before bed had better melatonin levels and better sleep quality. Now, where there's been significant research, and I found it particularly fascinating, is the impact of blood sugar levels and red light therapy. So this research was done at UCL and City University in London, and they measured the impact of a single 15-minute exposure to 670 nanometers. So remember, 670 is not even deeply penetrating, okay? It's just a surface level. And they wanted to look at the connection to blood glucose levels, and they found after the oral glucose tolerance test in healthy adults that there was a reduction in overall blood glucose rise 2 hours after, up to 27.7%, and 7.5% had a reduction in their peak glucose spikes. And what they did is that they just shone this light, 670 nanometers, on the upper back of these participants for 15 minutes, right? So it has significantly dampened their glucose surges after a glucose load, right? So after having a carb-heavy meal, this is when these healthy participants were shown to have results. And they also did a similar one in Cairo in 2021, where they took 60 patients who had type 2 diabetes already, and they split them into 2 groups. Okay, so one group received, the LLT therapy or the RLT, okay, in addition to conventional hypoglycemic medication, okay? And the control group only got the medication, right? So they were still given a medication, but they were also using in one of the groups the red light therapy. Now, this was applied for 3 sessions per week for 12 weeks, okay? 3 times a week for 12 weeks. What were the outcomes? It was a significant decrease in their fasting glucose levels and in their oral glucose tolerance, okay? Within each laser session, there was an acute drop in blood glucose by an average of 22.7 micrograms. So it has shown to have promising potential for people with blood sugar issues, okay? Studies in both healthy individuals and even those who already have type 2 diabetes suggests that short sessions of RLT can reduce post-meal glucose spikes, can improve your fasting glucose, and can even lower this over time. Okay, and what is happening here is, again, the mitochondria is being stimulated. Yeah, they are the power plants of our cells, and it's helping the body to use glucose more efficiently and easing that strain on insulin. Okay, and obviously they are going to state that this research is still early, but it could be a non-invasive, really complementary tool for better blood sugar control, which is fascinating, excellent, I feel. So this isn't fluff, right? There is actually real science being done and, being tested with very real conditions using red light therapy. So yeah, that's brilliant. Alhamdulillah. So just to conclude here, red light therapy is more than a beauty hack. It is a biological signal. It's gentle, it's non-invasive, and it helps your body return to its natural rhythm. Many of us may have actually lost this connection, through a lot of indoor living, being under LED lighting all the time, screen exposure, stress, all that kind of stuff. But the one thing to realize that it isn't an overnight fix. Okay, it is a powerful signal if you pair it with the basics of a life that is leaning into a lot of good lifestyle changes. Okay, so you cannot just use this and think, okay, yes, that's it, my life's sorted. It's going to be, this is like, the supplement that you're going to be taking, a lifestyle supplement, right? That's how I would view it. It's not something that you would stick to and just think, okay, this is going to be the answer, the cure-all for my illness, right? And as Brian Gohl, he's the CEO of Red Light Rising, he says, we are not adding anything new to the body. We are just simply reminding it of what it's capable of. Okay, because when you give your body the right light signals, you're going to unlock healing that pharmaceuticals can never imitate. This is one thing. So again, you want to start small, you want to be consistent, and you want to observe how your body responds to this. So ladies, if you found this session to be helpful, Share it with someone who could benefit, whether they've got hormonal imbalances, fatigue, pain, skin issues. Red light therapy could very, very much be the missing piece of the healing puzzle, right? And in the group, again, I will share the brands that I use, the brands that I have devices from, and it will be in the group, inshallah, along with a discount, inshallah, for you guys. And I'm also working on a partnership with a company, inshallah, to get more better lighting into our homes, inshallah, and get you ladies a really good discount with that. So, keep a lookout on that for in the group, inshallah. And if you have questions, you can fire away any of them in the chat now. If you are listening to the recording, you can reach out to me on Instagram, inshallah, if you have questions about red light. And inshallah, I will be able to answer them. Jazakallah khair for being here live. And I hope to be connecting with you ladies soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.